Well, he's a former Cougar and NFL quarterback and now an author. Luke Falk, whose book Mind-Strength-Playbook is now available, is in our spotlight tonight. Luke, what was your motivation for doing this to begin with?
Well, appreciate you guys having me on first and foremost. Really, I was writing it for my younger self. I was a kid that struggled with confidence growing up, and I worked really hard physically and never seemed to be able to, get more confident or really have consistent performances at the level that I really wanted to. And my parents were super supportive of me, and they found me a sports psychologist. And my sports psychologist, his name was Dr. Craig Manning, and he showed me that if I train my mind just like I train my body, as diligently, as consistently, that over time I'd be able to develop mind strength. And it didn't happen overnight, right? You don't go to a gym and do 100 sit-ups and think you're gonna have a six-pack. That's not what happened. But consistently over time, I was able to become more mentally tough. And that was, I started getting confident. I started to be able to succeed in certain situations where I had, maybe unraveled before, and then was able to play at a decent level at the peak of my career. And then guess what? I quit working on this stuff. I quit working on my mind strength. And we found out how quickly, I don't have a lot of talent. And with, even if you have a lot of talent without mind strength, it's talent wasted. So that was really the inspiration. And then I also think too, I was writing for my younger coaches. I think coaches are wanting to know how to really be able to help athletes with the mental part of the game rather than just, hey, we're going to beat you to the ground with physical conditioning or in the weight room. And then parents are always asking, hey, what can we do for our kid? And then for the general reader that, that they're just looking to maximize their full potential. They've got so much chaos going on in the world right now. Why not have a tool and a playbook to be able to master your inner world so it's not so chaotic and you can handle the adversity in the external world?
That's incredible. And obviously, if anyone is going to talk about beating the odds, it's you, a former walk-on at Washington State who became the Pac-12 record holder in so many different passing categories. What are some of the biggest lessons from this book that allowed you to find success on the field?
Yeah, well, a lot of that too, those accolades. I mean, I got very lucky. I had a great team around me, and just like this book, I mean, there's so many people involved in it, so I'm very proud of it. But I'll give you one. People always ask me about a Coach Leach story, and I've shared this before, and it really took off on social media. But it's what, not how, right? It's how to handle coaching, and sometimes whether you're in work or whether you're an athlete, you're going to have to get tough criticism. And for me, I used to ride the highs when Leach would say something positive to me. Oh, I was on cloud nine. And when he said something negative to me, which was about 99% of the time, I mean, I was as low got. And it wasn't only impacting me on the field, but it was really impacting me in my life. And I felt like I was on a teeter totter. And, I read a book called The Four Agreements, and I came to it because of Tom Brady. I used to model Tom Brady all the time. Hey, what's he reading? What's he doing? And he said he read a book called The Four Agreements every year. Well, in that book, for The Four Agreements, there's a skill called take nothing personally. Really, that things aren't about you. What people say and do to you really isn't about you, but it's about what they're going through. And I got thinking, I'm like, well, I wonder if Coach Leach's delivery, along with the other coaches I've had, has something to do with the mood that they're in, not necessarily, about me. But what I can do is I can take the coaching point from it and just drop the how it's being delivered. So what, not how. So what's he saying, not how is it being delivered. So for example, we were playing we were 6-0 in the country, or we were 6-0, we were eighth in the country, and we went to Cal Berkeley, and I laid an absolute egg. And I'm sure a number of Coug fans are still pretty pissed off at me. I had 5 interceptions. Right, it was a terrible game. We go back to Pullman, and Leach comes the next day about an hour to an hour and a half late, just classic Leach time. And he walks in the room and he looks right at me and he goes, "Falk, you got to be the slowest mother effer I've ever seen." And he went on for 10 minutes. And earlier in my career, without these mind strength skills and principles, I would have been done. I wouldn't have been able to go on with that season. I'd have been emotionally sunk. But with this what not how, hey, what's he saying? Well, get rid of the ball. No negative sacks, no negative plays. Find an opportunity to keep us in a good field position. And obviously, I wasn't very great at that as a player because, along with those Pac-12 passing records, I think I have the sacks and negative rushing yards as well, probably. But anyways, it's a great skill and tool to be able to learn in any arena that you're in. Hey, what's the coaching point I can take here? Not how is it being delivered, even within relationships or anything in that arena. So.
Yeah, that's really tough to do, especially as a college athlete. Writing a book, meanwhile, never an easy task. So when did you decide, hey, this is something I really want to do? How long did it take you to write this book?
Yeah, so kind of a long story. In 2015, I really liked the material of a guy named Wayne Dyer. And I called up my dad and I said, Dad, I know what I want to do with my life. And he actually flew to Pullman because he wouldn't hear it on the phone. He said, I need to do this in person. And I said, Dad, I want to do what Wayne Dyer does. I want to write books. I want to speak. I want to help people really maximize their full potential. And so that was when the seed got planted. And then here 10 years later, it actually came to fruition. But the actual book writing process, I started it last year. I got a book proposal, found an agent in the winter. And then really the actual writing itself probably took about a month and then 2 months of editing. But I had been coaching on these principles for the last 5 years because during COVID, my old former teammate Nick Begg and I, well, we were creating a mind strength curriculum. You're trying to figure out what you want to do post career. And I said, I think people need mind strength. I would like to be an adjunct professor at Washington State. My favorite professors were all adjunct because it wasn't theory. They had actually done it, right? If I had a business professor that was an adjunct, he's probably running a restaurant in Pullman or something. So the same idea here, it's like, this isn't theory based. I've lived these principles and I've coached these principles. Let's put it into a curriculum. And that's kind of how it got started. And then it evolved and I brought it into my college coaching. And then it was to the point where, all right, it's time to write this book. It's time to get it out there.
That's really cool. And you mentioned Mike Leach, and we all know how opinionated he was, and we all miss him today, especially as members of the media. I got to get your thoughts, though. What do you think his reaction would be if he read your book?
Oh, man. He'd probably say, Falk, you're full of it, or something like that. He'd give me a hard time, I definitely know that. Or he'd be like, hey, where's the part about you like bunting rather than throwing touchdowns? Because he'd always give me a hard time whenever we're playing on the road or something. I checked out of a pass play that he wanted into a run, and he'd always give me a hard time about that. So I think he'd be proud of it. I think that, he's throughout the book, there's so many Leachisms. It's not a secret why he was successful at the 3 places that he went. I mean, those are hard places to win, and it's not like he got lucky. There's a formula behind it. And, really, I think in this modern day of football, we could use a lot more Leachism as well with just kind of the mental toughness that he created in his players by not making things easy, not making things easy. And obviously, he probably wouldn't be coaching in today's era because he wouldn't like it, and I certainly agree with him. Hopefully, we can get back to more of a level playing field in college athletics where the emphasis is on how are we going to develop these young men and these young women rather than, hey, how much juice can we squeeze out of them? And then vice versa, how much juice can we squeeze out of this university? So hopefully we can get back to that developmental deal because it's such a big part of, your life moving forward. And hopefully it's not just all transactional.
Well, to your point there, finally, I got to get your thoughts on the Cougs. A lot has changed since you were there. What are your impressions of Coach Jimmy Rogers and the direction of that program, given the challenges it faces with money and NIL these days?
Yeah, well, he got into a tough situation. I think there was like 75 new players on the roster, so that's tough to win anywhere. I've seen his coaching firsthand. So I got hired as the offense coordinator at Northern Iowa, and he's at South Dakota State. They're the gold standard. And in fact, our head coach had us as an offensive staff sit down for 2 weeks and just watch South Dakota State's defense because that's how much respect he had for them. And what I saw on tape was a really well-disciplined football team that had an identity. And, it takes time. Like people forget that Leach was in Pullman and he went 3-9 his first year. Then we went 6-7, then we went 3-9, and then we won our 9-win season. So things take time. And, it's like we've become a microwave society. We want things now. Well, that's really, 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 kind of the main deal in college athletics right now. It's like win now or you're done. So I think that he's got a great staff. I think people need to be patient. And I think that we've got great leadership there that is steering the ship in the right direction. People who want to be there. I think it's kind of been a place beforehand where it's like a stepping stone job and people are looking, whether it's even coaches or whether it's people in the administration looking for the next job. And I think we have people that genuinely want to succeed in Pullman and really create a legacy.
Well, that's cool. And I know you had a chance to catch up with some of your former teammates in Pullman, and great to be back there. Luke Falk, now the author of the Mind Strength Playbook, which is available on Amazon and CoachLukeFalk.com. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
I appreciate it. Go Cougs.